Happy Friday, everybody. Is it that happy though? We're kind of hearing some mixed results in the field, and I want to talk about something that I am calling the buyer's conundrum if you are an entry level or a first-time home buyer in this market. I'm hearing some very similar anecdotal stories from agents, and when I hear the same story 5 or 6 times, that really starts to get me kind of thinking about strategy and what I think is going on. And just speaking broadly in broad terms, we're going to jump into our quantitative results in a second. This market is starting to feel a lot like a pre-presidential election market, where people have a lot of concern and uncertainty. I think a lot of this is geopolitical in the Ukraine. I think a lot of it is related to inflation that as a country we have not seen in the past 40 years. I think there's concern about how will that affect our economy, even though ironically that actually helps home prices stay high. We have a lot of things going on, but the fundamentals haven't changed. We still have a lot of people who want to buy houses, and we don't have that many houses. So, when you go out at those open houses on the weekend, you're noticing they are still packed, chock full of people in many cases. And there are still multiple bids, though those bids are looking different maybe than they would have looked about a month ago. So let's jump into our numbers, and I'm going to tell you what we're seeing out there and how that affects you. Let me bring that up here. Oh, there we go. I think I can make this go full screen, so let's just do that. There we go. Okay. All right, I hope everyone can see this. Let's start off with our closed prices. Quick reminder to everyone, this is based looking backwards 4 to 6 weeks. But I mean, as you can see, look at this trend line starting through February. I mean, we just went up. So yes, it's down a little bit this week, but I think these are kind of some of our normal fluctuations. We have definitely seen since the beginning of the year, prices shoot up. So it is not your imagination. That is in fact exactly what has happened. But here, look at our condo market. Now, just remember, the blue line is our entry-level single-family home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, the first quartile of houses. And our entry-level condo is the 2-bedroom, 2-bath configuration. And again, that first quartile in Los Angeles and Orange counties. We combine that data to kind of give you a composite. And look at the jump we saw. Now, do I think this might back down again next week? And this is a little bit of this is some noise in the signal, but I don't think there's any doubt that condo market is moving upward rapidly. And I think we're just seeing a lot more buyers are entering that condo space than we ever had before. It's a trend that's been building for about 6 months. And we're going to get to a point where, that gap is going to close between those entry-level single family and entry-level condos. So moving on here to our payment, similarly, we see, probably around $4,600 here. For our entry-level single-family home, that's 5% down, including mortgage insurance, property taxes. But gosh, we're not that far behind. We're only 10% under on our entry-level condo. Think about that. Only 10% less about in payments for one fewer bedroom and a condo versus house. That's really fascinating and interesting to see those payments look so close. Again, we've got our income to qualify. We're almost at $100,000 for our condo. Like I said, I think that's a little bit of an artifact. We're going to see that come back down probably to 90 or so. And we're up here kind of in that 115 range for our entry-level single-family home. And again, this is household income, the minimum required to qualify, assuming no other debt. So if you've got student loan, car payment, etc., you will need more than this amount in your household of income to qualify. But we just wanted to create a little bit of a reference point there. Now let's talk about absorption rate and the reason why this market is sending us a little bit of mixed signals. I'm gonna go off here for a second. One of the things that we've heard is this kind of constant refrain is, there is a limit to affordability. And I think that's a really not cute statement, but I think that's a gross oversimplification, right? Because it doesn't just so happen that one day buyers decide they can't afford houses anymore. That's not the way it works. In fact, it's a much more complicated equation than that. one of the things that starts to happen is buyers get pickier. So they might say, well, I'm willing to pay these prices, but I have to be in love with what I'm buying. So buyers getting pickier is one of those things that starts to happen. Another is that buyers start changing what it is they're looking for. And a good example of that is why our condo market is booming to some degree, right? Like the new normal is that a condo is something that is acceptable to buyers when maybe a couple of years ago, those same buyers would have said no. So there's a lot of reasons why this doesn't feel like a switch gets flipped. And the problem that we're having is we don't have a shortage of basic demand, right? We still see open houses that have hundreds of people come through them every weekend, right? That's not a market that is short on demand, but yet what we're hearing in the field is that a fewer number of offers are coming in despite the same amount of traffic at that open house. That's the change where we're seeing kind of this notion of affordability maybe having a little bit of an effect on the market. The problem is, and I know we've talked about this before, the problem is if you had a house that got 10 offers on it, and now your houses get 3 offers, that still means you don't have enough houses to go around. That might slow the rate of price appreciation, but that's not going to result in a declining market, right? You need more of an effect than that. And we're just not quite seeing it. I think we are also seeing, like I said, a lot of tentative behavior. So, when you're a buyer, right, here's your calculus at the moment. Option number one, right? Option number one or outcome number one is that this Ukraine thing gets worse, interest rates go up, the market sucks out, and maybe there's a drop in prices. Though, like I said, there's a lot of forces working against that, right? I think a lot of sellers would just not put their house on the market if they thought the market was declining. They would just stop. They would just say, we're going to stay put. Right now, sellers on average have a lot of equity. Most of them don't need to sell. And I think any of those optional sales would pull out of the market, and that would prop up prices. So, our potential outcome one, right, if you're buyers, maybe you get a little better of a deal. Competition isn't as stiff, but if rates are higher, your buying power will be less. Option number two, right, is that we see the market slow, but it doesn't really stall out. It just weakens the pace of increases, right, until interest rates settle at a new level and possibly inflation gets under control, et cetera. In that case, if you wait too, you have a problem. So, one of the issues that we see for a lot of buyers is I think, their fear is this third potential outcome. And third outcome, right, is that we see a 2008 level financial collapse. Half the houses on blocks are for sale. Yards are turning brown, et cetera, foreclosures everywhere. And they find that home they've always wanted is now on sale for 30% off. And I think buyers have two feelings about that right now. First off, they're either afraid that if they buy, that's what's going to happen, and they're going to have massive amounts of regret. While anything in this market is possible, I think that's a very low probability outcome. I don't think we have a bunch of people who don't have equity. I think lending standards have been far more conservative. And I also think we have a lot of people who don't have to move. So, and our job market still looks good. But the other fear, that buyers have, it's not just that they're going to make that decision, but their other fear, right, is that even if they, let's suppose they wait and do that, then their fear is that they're wrong. So we're seeing a lot of people that are in this kind of analysis paralysis mode, which really is not a good place to be if you're a buyer. Whenever I find that clients are in that sort of mental space, that sort of analysis paralysis space, and they're really just at the point of like flipping a coin, I don't know what the market's going to do. I really try to redirect their energy into understanding their risk and ways to mitigate it, and also increasing their flexibility. You want to be in a position to take advantage of whatever market conditions are in the future, or minimize any damage that those market conditions might do to your finances. So, I used to have, I think this was a blog post I did like maybe 10 years ago, right? And it was called "Heads You Win, Tails You Win." And that's really the kind of situation you want to put yourself into. I think that's a much better use of mental energy than kind of this analysis paralysis mode that ultimately will come down to, not being able to guess the market. And I know the media loves to spout out articles and and the statistics are pretty much there, right? Negative articles get clicked a lot more. People love to read about disasters, it turns out. Who knew? So, you've got a lot of information signals coming out there. So that's why I say focus on the things that you have direct control over, your own level of risk mitigation and your own level of flexibility. So there we go. That is my little monologue. We're going to jump back in here. This is that mixed signal we're seeing. Look at this absorption rate. It's not low by any means, but it has dropped a little bit. Is part of that affordability sense? Is part of that buyers getting pickier, right? They don't want all the houses that are coming up on the market right now. There are homes that are getting tons of showings and people not writing the big offers the sellers were hoping for. That is a sign of what I think we're seeing out there in this mode of buyers who are just a bit more tentative. Inventory, a little bit more good news for our entry-level home buyers, right? We are now approaching an inventory level that is the same as it was last year, maybe a little bit less than it was last year at this time. So, is that particularly great news? No, but it's a lot better than it was. We've seen this inventory going up. In our condo inventory, that's still way less than it was, but it rebounded a little bit and it's doing okay. I'd say that condo inventory is at least holding steady, even though it is at a much lower level. I really want to see what happens to this number through the spring, because last year, what it did is it crested, it went up, that inventory went up, crested in around the beginning of August, and then began to fall towards the end of the year. Are we going to see that same pattern happen? Because this spring has been a little bit different. Now we've got kind of a bit of information that contradicts where we just were, right? We said absorption rate is down, right? That means a less competitive market typically, but our 14 days still active is also way down. In fact, almost hitting lows, meaning what we're seeing is that there is inventory staying on the market longer, but the stuff that is coming on the market that's fresh inventory, that stuff is getting sucked up and taken away really quickly. So it looks like we've got kind of, buyers are no longer willing to accept these crummy, fourth tier properties. Those are sitting. The fresh meat is the stuff that's getting circulated real quickly. And finally, we have our weak supply of homes, right? And what we're doing here is we are trying to index that inventory to the rate of buyers buying. And this is where the news is, again, not really good and maybe a little contradictory. We are still well below 3 weeks of inventory on our single family home. So this means that yes, inventory has gone up slightly, but the rate of people buying homes has gone up as well. So we're not seeing any more weeks of inventory. In fact, we're pretty similar to where we were at this point last year, very close. And our condo inventory is still right just over 3 weeks. And that is still a bit less than it was at this point last year. So thank you everybody for watching. We love doing these videos. We love the questions. We love the comments. If you or someone should be a home buyer or would like to be a homeowner, absolutely reach out to us. We'd love to lend you our expertise, and we can go through some of that strategy about mitigating risk and also maximizing your flexibility. We'd be happy to talk to you about that. There is a link down below to schedule a no cost, no obligation consultation. We love doing those, just help answering people's questions, deciding whether proceeding is a good option for you. We also have a link, I think, to our app down below. As always, do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you will hear about our new videos when they drop. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great weekend. We will see you again real soon.